The Supreme Court, DNA, and Camp David are all on this day. Welcome back to On This Day. Today's date is April 25th, 2022. It is the 115th day of the year. There are 250 days left in 2022. It is the 17th Monday in the 18th week and the 35th day of spring. If today's your birthday, you're still a Taurus, so get used to it. Today is National DNA Day. On April 25th, people across the nation recognize National DNA Day. Is this a day we really need? Honestly. Do we also have National Fingerprinting Day? Because all DNA ever seems to be these days is finding out who killed someone 25 years ago. Sure, you also get to find out where your people actually come from, but that's another story entirely. Like I said before, I first got my DNA test, I opened it up, and it said I was like 75% Nigerian, and I went and got my reading glasses, and it was actually Norwegian. Big difference. On this day in 1953, James Watson and Francis Crick formally announced their discovery of DNA in a short letter published in the science journal Nature. Fast forward to the 1990s when scientists from around the world came together to begin mapping the human genome. Known as the Human Genome Project, approximately 2,000 scientists in 6 countries set to work on mapping the nucleotides in human DNA. Yeah, that doesn't make sense to me either, but it sounds really important. In the process, the project learned that humans share genes with other species. That's kind of alarming. If you don't believe in evolution, it's alarming. Some of the species the project mapped included mice and fruit flies, all species that were commonly studied in science already. All right, let's see what else April 25th has given us. 1859, British and French engineers break ground for the Suez Canal. 1898, the Spanish-American War. The United States Congress declares that a state of war between the U.S. and Spain has existed since April 21st, when the American naval blockade of the Spanish colony of Cuba began. 1901, New York State becomes the first U.S. state to require automobile license plates. 1938, the U.S. Supreme Court delivers its opinion on Erie Railroad v. Tompkins and overturns a century of federal common law. This was a strange thing, and you got to know a little bit about the law, which I don't know a ton. I did used to work for attorneys. That's as far as my knowledge goes. But basically, this guy was walking near the train tracks, right off the train tracks, heard the train coming. Everything was fine. He's still walking down the road and not going to be hit by the train. He knew it was coming. Well, they had a chunk of metal sticking out like a couple feet from the train, and it severed his left arm. Well, they have some strange laws in Pennsylvania where this happened. The railroad would have been able to just kind of walk away and treat him like a trespasser. And if you're a trespasser, you're on your own. But his attorneys were pretty smart and didn't file it in the state. They filed it at a federal level, which turned into this big thing about how federal courts are supposed to apply state laws, or they could use their own judgment, just a whole bunch of legal mumbo jumbo. But it eventually gets to the Supreme Court, and they ruled in favor of Tompkins. There's a couple really interesting videos on it if you know much about law, because I tried to follow them a little bit, but I really couldn't keep up. So if that's something you're interested in, just type in Erie Railroad Company versus Tompkins case brief. You'll find it. 1954, the first practical solar cell is publicly demonstrated by Bell Telephone Laboratories. It's interesting. Bell Telephone came up with the first solar cell? Interesting. 1959, the St. Lawrence Seaway, linking the North American Great Lakes to the Atlantic Ocean, officially opens for shipping. 1982, Israel completes its withdrawal from the Sinai Peninsula per the Camp David Accords. 2007, Boris Yeltsin's funeral. This is the first to be sanctioned by the Russian Orthodox Church for a head of state since the funeral of Emperor Alexander III in 1894. I kind of like Boris Yeltsin. He served as the first president of Russia, which obviously after the Soviet Union collapsed, they needed a president. He was it, and he served for 8 years. Sadly, the guy that followed him, his time as president only lasted 2 years before they abolished it and basically went to whatever system they got now with Vladimir Putin. He did a lot helping them transform from the old Soviet style of doing things to what they later had. Sadly, he also oversaw a whole lot of corruption, and that's how they got a lot of the billionaires that they have to this day. So basically, he's pretty much known for his economic mismanagement and overseeing massive growth, inequality, and corruption. So a lot of people will think, no, well, Mikhail Gorbachev was like the president before Boris Yeltsin, but he was the president of the Soviet Union. Boris Yeltsin was the president of Russia. Boris Yeltsin was never considered a picture of health. He was a hardcore alcoholic and just had all kinds of other problems, and he eventually died of heart failure. Movies released on April 25th, 1997, Romy and Michelle's high school reunion. Okay, so this probably wasn't the best movie ever, but it is a cult classic. When you watch it, it's very interesting because you'll want to go back and watch it again, unless you're someone that just likes dramas and action films. But if you like a good comedy and that's kind of slapstick-ish and kind of dorky and kind of weird, this is a pretty good movie. It's basically two friends take a road trip to their 10-year high school reunion, and they basically come up with big lies about themselves to impress their old classmates. What's interesting is the two characters that really didn't accomplish anything with their life and never went to college. You know, they like worked in, I don't know, clothing stores and a tanning salon or something weird like that. But the two people that played Romy and Michelle, Lisa Kudrow, she went to Vassar College, and Mira Sorvino went to Harvard. But that movie these days is considered a cult classic. And, you know, typical of a cult classic, it didn't do too good in the theaters. And eventually, you know, I don't know, when it made it to cable or DVDs, that's where it got really popular. Born on April 25th, 1970, Jason Lee. I love Jason Lee. He is best known for playing the lead role in NBC's comedy My Name is Earl. He also played big roles in Kevin Smith's movies like Mallrats, Chasing Amy, Dogma, Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. That's where I knew him from originally. Then he went on to My Name is Earl, and that's one of my favorite TV shows of all time. He didn't start off as an actor. He rose to fame as a professional skateboarder in the early 90s. He also played a pretty big supporting role in one of the greatest movies ever made, Almost Famous. 2000, great movie, true story about Cameron Crowe's life as a rock and roll journalist that he started when he was like 15 or 16. If you don't know who Cameron Crowe is, he wrote and directed Fast Times at Ridgemont High. He also did Jerry Maguire, which was great, Singles, Say Anything. He's done a lot of really good movies. But yeah, Jason Lee's in Almost Famous. Check it out if you ever get a chance. Died on April 25th, 2002, we lost Lisa Loebs. She was a rapper, dancer, and singer known as Left Eye, who was a member of the hip-hop group TLC, who became known for singles like Ain't Too Proud to Beg, What About Your Friends, a bunch of other ones. She died in a car accident in Honduras, which was really strange because there was like 4 other musicians, all in this like 3-year span, that died in car accidents in Honduras or Costa Rica. So she was a little crazy, and that's what people said about her. She's a little wild, a little crazy and stuff like that. And professional football player Andre Rison learned this the hard way. He was dating her for a while until 1994 when she got mad that he got some shoes and didn't get her some, so she burned down his mansion. Not even joking. All right, that's today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you got some information out of it. Now go out, have a productive day, and be nice to each other.